Gear is vital on a trip like this. Brand is not so much important, but the gear is vital. And it starts with the best rain gear you can get is extremely important. I have Fjallraven stuff on this trip, Fjallraven and Helly Hansen, which saved my tail. I always bring a backup of underwear, socks, and long underwear. Everything else I pretty much just bring one of, other than obviously 2 lighter down jackets, 1 set of rain gear. If you can only bring 1 set of rain gear, do yourself a favor and bring Helly Hansen rain gear, PVC, non-breathable rain gear. I think it will serve you the best in a torrential rain if really you're in a bad situation. I think it'll handle that stuff the very, very best of any of this stuff. And then beyond rain gear, down is super important. And the down that I have on this trip is also Fjallraven and then Barney's. I bought these. Well, I went in and bought this Barney's pack, which I love. It's an external frame pack. Seems so 1980s or 1970s or 1960s, I don't know, but the thing is legit. And I bought these pants. I don't even know what they call them, but it's an insulated, I think it's Primaloft Frontier gear of Alaska. These things are incredible. And they are a synthetic blend of insulation, and they're water resistant, which is amazing to have out here. So I can basically use them as my pajama bottoms at night, and I'm not too worried when I go outside that I'm gonna get too soaked. Okay. Some goodies in there. And then I usually stay in a teepee because I like having no floor and space to stand up and put your pants on. But the teepee can only handle so much wind, and this being Adak Island, the birthplace of wind, I thought I'd go with a true backpacking style tent. So I picked up these Hilleberg Nalo GTs, and I am wickedly impressed with these things. Trust me, they're not paying me to say that. They don't even know who I am or that I exist. But this tent is ridiculous. This is my rainfly. It stays attached to my inner tent the whole time. I have a door here, a vent here, a triangle mesh vent in the back, and then a floor vent. Bathtub style bottom. The thing can handle wind like nobody's business. Super cool tent. But this is my system basically. I have a sea to summit ground pad, and I'll use Thermarest too. I have a bunch of them. I have a Fjallraven sleeping bag on this trip, and you see a pile of my clothes in there. Anything I want to warm up or keep dry, I pile in my sleeping bag at night. So it's pretty cool. So today I'll hunt along the west side of the island, and they have some really funky bulls here. I'm not in the camp of shooting a mega giant or anything silly like that. I just want to shoot a really nice old bull because I want to fly a bunch more meat home. And the caribou here have big bodies, and they are quite tasty. I've been eating quite a bit of caribou at the lodge, or at the house I should say, with Corey and Scott. And so I just want to take some home for myself, along with cod and halibut and some king crab, everything that the sea has to offer here. It's funny, caribou are kind of, to me, kind of like a marine mammal here. You know, they've been placed on this island as an invasive species on purpose so that soldiers that might get stuck here have something to eat in a time of war. How cool is that? That people were so forward thinking, they thought, if we can't get supplies to our troops that are here, that are fighting the Japanese or the Germans or whoever, they'll have caribou to hunt and shoot and eat. So I just think it's cool that I'm now here hunting the very same herd, but because they're an island herd, they're from the Nelchina originally, but because they're an island herd, you know, it's kind of almost hunting like a polar bear or something like that. They just live on this island, they live on the beaches, they live in the hills. And so it's really cool that we get to boat hunt them. And it's really cool for me because the first time that I started hunting Alaska was in a place called the Prince William Sound. A lot of people remember that because of the Exxon Valdez spill that happened, I think, in the 80s, maybe 90s. 80s, I think. I hunted from a boat there for black bears. And I did that for a couple of years, and it was really rewarding because you get to see all the whales and the sea otters, the seals, sea lions, the orcas, the starfish, the jellyfish. It's incredible. And then on top of it, you get to glass the shorelines for different animals, and it's really cool. So yeah, but so I'm excited to do that, and I'm gonna get all the rest of this stuff picked up, and that's basically that. When you do a trip like this, you want to have really good long underwear, generally made out of a merino wool. I have some Fjallraven here, and I'm wearing some, I think the company's called -32 or 33, something like that. I have no idea. I don't pay attention to labels that much. So you want to have really good long underwear, really good socks. I'm wearing Darn Tough on this trip, and I have some Hanwag socks. Really good blend of socks. You want really good down. I brought 2 down jackets, this Fjallraven one and this Fjallraven one, so I can stack them if I get really cold. Then if I get really, really cold, I'll put both down jackets on, then I'll put my raincoat over the top. And if I'm cold, I'll put my Barney's down, or puffy pants on. They're not down, they're premium loft, but I'll put those on, then I'll put my rain pants on either underneath them if it's not raining, or over the top of them if it is raining. And then if I'm still cold after that, well, then it's time to do jumping jacks or push-ups or whatever, which we've done plenty of times. So yeah, that's basically it. It comes down to long underwear, down, and rain gear, and then a good backpack, which you can't beat a Barney's. You honestly can't. A good backpack and a good shelter. And I would say that, you know, there are all sorts of different kinds of shelters, but you have to match your shelter to your surroundings. I generally like to sleep in an 8 or 12 man teepee. That's just not a good tent for this. I've had it in really extreme winds, my teepee, and it's handled it somewhat okay. I've only had a couple of times where I've had to take it down, and I'm talking like 50, 60 mile an hour winds. But I knew that coming out here, this was going to be extreme. So I went with the Hilleberg, and I knew that I was going to have to carry a big heavy caribou a long way, or hopefully I'm going to have to carry a big heavy caribou a long way. And if I have to do that, I want to do it with the Barneys, because they have this aluminum frame. See that? Big waist belt, big chest belt, or big chest harness. This thing, like, you can move weight, indestructible. And I'm not very nice to my stuff. So I'm getting packed up, really excited. This is the other thing that I do, don't laugh. But I've worked in Alaska for years as a biologist, years ago, and I did it for years. I've been coming and hunting here. Man, this is probably my 30th trip. I always bring a pillow. I brought this thing, this little black pillow, with me for a long time, and now I just added this one to the mix. They don't weigh anything. They're filled with down. They go right in my sleeping bag, cinch sack, and they make sleeping so much better for me personally. Could I use a down jacket? Yes. If I was going super light, would I? Yes, probably. But this is good enough. So this is kind of cool. This Barney's pack has a separate compartment in the bottom. Anyway, it's pretty cool because it has this little pocket down here that my sling bag pretty much fits in perfectly despite my looking like I'm struggling right now. But it fits in really well. And my sleeping pad. So I have that kind of a base to build off of. So there's this idea of genotype and phenotype. Genotype is your physical genes, which make up your body and your hair color and eye color. And then there's phenotype, which is your physical representation of what you look like a zebra having stripes, a giraffe having spots, a brown bear having light fur or dark fur. But the caribou here are pretty unique in the sense that their antlers kind of look like driftwood. And I can't help but think that has something to do with them living on the sea, because it's unlike any other caribou antlers I've ever seen. They kind of almost appear fluid, like to me, very much like a piece of driftwood that's bounced around the ocean for days or years and goes from being wood shaped to kind of this stone polished, wavy, gnarly shape. And so I'm really excited to actually see my first bull today, see that different phenotype. Okay, so I have some wet gear, so I want to keep that separate from my dry gear. I have 2 pairs of wet socks. I just got submerged, and if I were here for another couple of days, I would hang on my wet gear and dry it. There aren't any trees here to make a clothesline, but I would figure something out off of my tent because it's really windy today. There's going to be some sun, and there's not going to be any rain today. So today I would recover all the gear that got wet. But since I'm being picked up by Corey, I'm just going to pack it away and deal with it later on, either at tonight's campsite, or if I'm fortunate enough to find a bull and we actually have good seas to make it back home, I'll dry it at Corey's house tonight, or lodge, whatever you want to call it. But beyond that, I'm in good shape. I am testing, not ashamed to say, I'm testing a new Benelli rifle. This little jobber, which is getting the crap beat out of it, and handling it dutifully. I have a prototype here that isn't designed to handle weather like this. It's just designed for me to practice and learn and to beat it up, and I am doing that both with the rain and the salt air and salt water, and it is handling it amazingly. I shot it the other day at the range. I've been shooting it since September 10th. Shot a caribou with it in the Arctic in September, and I've been shooting it since, and it's pretty cool. The thing is still driving tax, and I am no rifleman. That I can tell you that. I know how to shoot a rifle, but I am far from an expert, and the thing is handling itself quite well, which I think is really cool. Okay. So I have to break tent down, clothing down, get my gaiters on, get my boots on. I'm wearing, they're beat up. I've been wearing these things since September. Hanbog Cirrus 2. I think they're called GTX. Get huge chunks missing out of my sole. I've been hiking with this thing forever. Obviously it's soaking wet. This is a really wet environment. Wind and rain, but it's an awesome boot, and it's handling itself fine. Actually quite well. Okay. I have some books and journals. I like to read Aldo Leopold when I'm out here. It gives me a presence of biology and a presence of belonging and a presence of not being gross to my environment. Charging my headlamp. I have some Jolly Ranchers, which is a secret. My InReach, which allows me to communicate. Maps of the island. I think it's time to break the tent down. I'm also testing these guys. Never used them before, but Tetra. It's kind of interesting. There's a earplug in here, plus a listening device. So it's kind of like a hearing enhancement, and yet covers your ears when you shoot. Pretty intriguing. Toothbrush.
How often do you use that?
Number 2. Sometimes you forget to brush your teeth on here. That's why people made cinnamon Jolly Ranchers. Cleanse your palate. Okay. Tent's gonna go in, then wool sweater, then down jacket, then rain jacket. Odds and ends. Okay, I think I'm getting there. I'm gonna toss this thing out there, put my boots on. See, you can do that when you have good gear. You can throw stuff around a little bit. Don't be careless, particularly with your shelter or your matches. But look at how smart this tent is. They have a draw cord here to tighten it up. Did you see that? See, the tent's kind of saggy. Tighten it up. Really smart tent. But I bought these full retail at Barney's in Anchorage, which is literally one of the coolest stores in the world, and a big Hillbird dealer. So I bought this tent and another for the crew, and really happy. The size of this vestibule, how good the venting is. Boots on, and then gaiters on. It's I always wear OR gaiters. I haven't found a better one yet. The reason you want to wear OR gaiters, sometimes you wear gaiters because you don't want twigs and rocks to get in your shoe when you're hiking and give you a hot spot. But here you wear gaiters more often than not to keep the water off your pants that is on the grass, because these areas are saturated in water. I'm closer to Russia than I am to Alaska proper, if you will, than I am to mainland Alaska. I'm around 250 miles closer to Russia than I am mainland Alaska. So this place is an island. I think it's 250 square miles, like 30 miles by 25 miles, something like that. But I'm completely surrounding, it's completely surrounded, and I'm completely surrounded by the Bering Sea. So this is as harsh as it gets. These are the seas that sink ships, big ships. And these are the seas that are so cold you can't swim for very long in them. And even being out of the sea, the rain and the wind will zap your life like that. And so your gear, and I mean this, has to be nearly perfect. It really honestly does. And you try to stay dry. You can't, but you try to stay as dry as possible. And then on days like today, when you get a little reprieve from the pounding, you dry your gear. But on days like this also you have to hunt. So it's really weird. Yesterday I had a day where I was socked in the tent. So you think you could take that day to do laundry, get reset up, but you can't because it's pouring rain and so windy outside. Even going out to use the restroom in a few minutes, if you don't gear all the way up, you get soaked. And then I have to go all the way down to the ocean to get water, not out of the sea of course, but there's a little stream that pops out down there. So everything comes with a chore. Setting up the tent is a chore, keeping your sleeping bag dry is a chore. Every time you go out at night, wind and rain are just blowing right in, you have to push your sleeping bag back. There isn't a tent in the world that can protect you from it. And so everything is a chore. Staying dry is a chore, staying fed is a chore, drinking fresh water is a chore, putting gaiters on and breaking tents down is a chore, finding a bull caribou is a chore, and it's an awesome one at that. That's why we hunt. That's why we're hunters, because that's how our species evolved. That's how we were to be the most successful, was procuring our own meat.